Hey guys, welcome to your strategic case study pre-scene video on our pre-scene for the May and August 2025 sitting, which is, drumroll, Leothayre. Oh my gosh, yes. If you are sitting or your strategic case study in May or August, then let's talk about Leothayre, or how I'm going to abbreviate it to Leo. I'm going to talk about Leo today. So this pre-scene video is where I'm going to read the pre-scene for you. Everybody learns and listens in lots of different ways, and I really want you to embrace the pre-scene, get a fundamental understanding of this. Some people can read it and get that, some people can listen and get that. So what I've put together in this video is where I will read the pre-scene for you word for word, so that you can listen on the go, listen in ways that you can soak it up, listen on your way to work, listen so that you don't feel so overwhelmed with like the 26 pages of reading. Of course you would read, and I would encourage you to read, make notes like I have for sure, and really embrace the pre-scene, learn how to be the strategic finance lead at Leothayre, or Leo, I'm going to call it, and embrace it, learn it and embrace it, but learn it in lots of different ways. Okay, so this way is for your video, so I'll read it to you so you can learn, listen and learn in your own way. And obviously it will be time stamped as well, so that you can come back to it and listen in lots of different ways, like I said, to help and support your learning. This is what I'm here for. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Helen. I'm a revision coach. I coach SEMA students to pass their strategic case study with 100 marks. And I'm here to help you learn your pre-scene so that you don't get overwhelmed and that you know exactly how to get 100 marks on your case study on exam day. So this is just step one, guys. This is the reading. I'm going to share my screen and we're just going to go through it word for word. And it will be time stamped because this pre-scene, in my opinion, is two sections, two phases. Like one is about our market and our industry, and one is about Leo and us and our company. So when you watch this back next, you might just want to go straight to the Leo piece, which is what I'll time stamp below. But if you make sure that you listen and soak in the pre-scene properly so you get both areas, it's not just all about us. It mainly is, but there is obviously some industry understanding that SEMA have put together to help you listen and help you learn, and this is your way to listen and learn to it. Any questions, please just send me an email or DM me. If you would like a space on my strategic case study coaching course, then there'll be a link below so that you can view that. And I'm going to share my screen and let's get started. Here we go, guys. Are you ready? Here, welcome to your strategic case study exam pre-scene material for the May 2025 and August 2025 sittings. Like I said, the company is Leothayre, but I'm going to just call it Leo for this writing. That's what's page one. Page two, we have a contents page, and let's start with our introduction. Leothayre is a quoted company that provides a range of solutions to customers' needs for small satellites that are generally located in low Earth orbit. Leo can assist with the Leo can assist with the design of the satellites themselves and can support customers in reaching an agreement with providers of launch facilities. You are a senior manager in Leo's finance function. You report directly to the board and advise on special projects and strategic matters. Leo's head office is located in Wexland, a developed country which has an active and well-regulated stock exchange. Wexland's currency is the W dollar. Wexland requires companies to prepare their financial statements in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS. Going on to page 3. So this is where we start the market in the industry specific understanding, what SEMA have laid out to us. Okay, this is like step one of our pre-scene. Satellites. A satellite is an object in space that orbits around a larger object. Satellites can be neutral, such as the planets in the solar system orbiting around the sun, or they can be artificial, such as communication satellites orbiting around the Earth. There are approximately 10,000 active satellites in orbit around the Earth, That number is expected to grow significantly over the next few years. In the past, satellites were almost exclusively large objects that were launched into geosynchronous Earth orbit (GEO). Geosynchronous satellites remain stationary in relation to the Earth's surface because their orbit takes the same 24 hours as the Earth's rotation. They maintain that position because the forces created by the satellite's velocity and the Earth's gravitational pull are in balance. These satellites maintain their position for a very long time because there is no atmosphere in space, so there is nothing to change their velocity. There's a diagram showing the difference in the where the satellites are stationed around the Earth. Please review this document and picture. Page 3. Small satellites tend to be launched into low or medium Earth orbit, LEO or MEO. LEO and MEO satellites tend to be non-geosynchronous, which means that they move in relation to the Earth's surface while they orbit. A typical satellite in LEO circles the Earth several times each day. These satellites are often at the very edge of the Earth's atmosphere, which means that they slow down gradually because of atmospheric resistance, allowing gravity to pull them towards the Earth. They descend into thicker atmosphere as their orbits decay, which slows them down still further. Eventually, friction from the atmosphere causes them to overheat to the point where they disintegrate and their fragments fall to Earth. Page 4. Small satellites have been becoming increasingly popular. They are cheaper to build and launch than larger satellites. Orbiting in low Earth orbit makes communication much easier. Only 12% of active satellites are GEO, 3% are MEO, and 85% are LEO, low Earth orbit. GEO satellites can have a mass of up to 6 tons and may be powered by arrays of solar panels that span up to 50 meters. Satellites can be classed by mass. And there's a table there showing the mass per type of satellite. Please review this table. Most recent growth has been in the markets for nano and micro satellites. A class of nanosatellites has been developed called CubeSats. The standard CubeSat is a cube measuring 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. This is known as a 1 unit or 1U CubeSat. CubeSats can also be designed in 1.5U, 2U, 3U, 6U, and 12U sizes and shapes. There is an illustration here for you. The use of standard sizes and shapes makes it relatively easy to adapt launch vehicles and their deployment mechanisms to carry a payload of CubeSats. Most CubeSats are 3U, 6U, or 12U. Pocket Cube is an alternative standard to CubeSat, with satellites measuring 5 by 5 by 5 centimeters and weighing less than 0.25 kilograms. That makes it possible to fit 8 pocket cubes into the volume required by a single CubeSat. Pocket cubes make it possible for students and hobbyists to build their own satellites and have them launched as part of a larger payload. Most small satellites are shaped as cubes or cuboids, even if they're not standard CubeSats or pocket cubes. These shapes simplify the integration of satellites with their launch vehicles and so reduce launch costs. Small satellites may be powered by batteries or by solar panels attached to their casing, possibly hinged so that more panels can be attached. Care must be taken in designing components to ensure that there will be sufficient power available to complete the satellite's mission. Designs must also allow for the fact that consuming power creates heat, which can damage the satellite and cause components to fail. We're now on to page 5. Larger satellites, including microsatellites and above, tend to be more complex. There's a picture illustrated here for you on page 5. Launching and deploying larger satellites tends to be complicated. Apart from their size and mass, these satellites have delicate external components that can be damaged during launch and deployment. The wings that carry the satellite's solar panels are usually folded during launch and will unfold once the satellite has been deployed. They may be motorized so that they can be turned towards the sun to increase their exposure to sunlight and so generate as much electricity as possible in order to power the satellite. Any damage to that mechanism could mean that the satellite cannot generate sufficient electrical power to complete its mission. Medium and large satellites are sometimes fitted with maneuvering thrusters that can be used to adjust their orbits after launch. These can be used to alter the coverage of sensors or to move the satellite to a new orbit. In some cases, the thrusters are used to bring the satellite back to Earth in a controlled manner. If its orbit has started to decay and there are concerns that it will shower a populated area with debris, I'm sorry, I read that slightly wrong. Let me do that sentence again. In some cases, the thrusters are used to bring the satellite back to Earth in a controlled manner if its orbit has started to decay and there are concerns that it will shower a populated area with debris. Small satellites do not have room for thrusters or for the fuel that they require to power them. Going on to page 6, we have different types of satellite missions Seema has spelled out for us. So the groups of satellite missions are communication, navigation, Earth observation, research and development, and orbits. I'll come on to these now. So we're on page 6. So under satellites are used extensively for several different types of missions. So each type of mission, a satellite mission of communications. Many radio frequencies require a direct line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. That line of sight can be blocked by terrain or over long distances by the curvature of the Earth. Communication satellites enable the transmission of data between locations that do not have a direct line of sight. Data can be transmitted from a ground station to a satellite, which retransmits the signal to the receiving ground station. Communication satellites can be configured to facilitate any form of communication that relies on radio, including internet and other computer data, telephone calls, and television signals. Another communication satellite mission. Communications can be enhanced by launching constellations of satellites that can communicate with one another, provided they have a line of sight. That could enable a ground station on one side of the Earth to communicate with a ground station on the other side. Messages can be relayed between as many satellites as are necessary to allow for reception. It is possible to create a global communication system by launching a constellation of small satellites into the low Earth orbit, LEO. Depending on the need for speed of transmission and coverage, constellations can comprise tens, hundreds, or thousands of satellites. That's important for us. The next satellite mission is navigation. Navigation satellites are large and located in geosynchronous Earth orbits, GEO. Navigation aids located anywhere on the Earth's surface measure the distances to 3 or more satellites. Software then triangulates these distances to determine a precise location, accurate to within a few feet. Satellite navigation can be used by all forms of transportation, including aircraft, ships, trains, and road. Global Positioning Systems, GPS, receivers can even be handheld for use by pedestrians. Some systems can pass navigational information to ground stations. For example, a shipping company might receive real-time updates on the location of its ships and their speed and direction of travel. The next satellite mission is Earth observation. Satellites in low Earth orbit can be equipped with sensors that detect specific matters of interest. For example, satellites can measure the health of crops by scanning for different light frequencies as they pass over large farms and transmit the results to the ground station. Large farming corporations might launch their own satellites, or farmers might pay a satellite operator to scan their fields and deliver regular reports. The same principle can be used to create satellites that can monitor weather patterns, detect forest fires or volcanic eruptions, measure atmospheric conditions including air pollution, track the spread of urban development or the extent of deforestation. In principle, satellites can be used to study almost any such natural or man-made phenomena. That's important for us too. The next satellite mission is research and development. Satellites can be used to carry out a wide variety of functions in support of pure and applied research and development. Satellites can be equipped with telescopes and sensors that can scan deep space, free from the distortion caused by the Earth's atmosphere. Satellites can launch experimental space vehicles in order to test propulsion systems that are under development. Satellites can create alloys and other materials or manufacture completely spherical ball bearings. Such products can be impaired by gravity when they are manufactured on Earth. That's important for us too. The next satellite mission is orbits. The mission determines the satellite's desired orbit. Satellites in geosynchronous orbit, GEO, can constantly observe or communicate with the same area on the Earth's surface. That can be vital for applications such as communications or navigation satellites. Satellites in non-geosynchronous orbits are constantly moving in relation to the Earth's surface. This means that a single satellite can cover a much larger area, but observation of or communication with any given location will be intermittent. If necessary, gaps in coverage can be dealt with by launching constellations of satellites at intervals but into the same orbits. Satellites can be launched into any desired orbit. Polar orbits pass over the Earth's north and south poles. The Earth rotates while the satellites continue their orbits. That means that a satellite can cover different parts of the Earth's surface within each orbit. This could mean that could be useful for tasks such as survey missions. Equatorial orbits follow the Earth's equator. Satellites circle the same place on a continuous basis. An orbit's inclination is its angle in relation to the equator. Zero inclination means that it orbits directly above the equator. Excuse me, let me do that again. Zero inclination means that it orbits directly above the equator. An inclination of 90 degrees means that it passes over the north and south poles. Orbits can be set at any inclination between 0 and 90 degrees. The Earth's gravitational pull is greater at lower altitudes, which means that a satellite must maintain a higher velocity in order to remain in orbit at lower altitudes. A satellite orbiting at 700 kilometers. Let's start again. Gosh, sorry. A satellite orbiting at 700 kilometers above the Earth's surface will travel at 28,000 kilometers per hour and will take 100 minutes to orbit the Earth. At 36,000 kilometers, a satellite travels at 11,000 kilometers per hour and takes 24 hours for each orbit. That was page 8. On page 9, we have some pictures of some more satellite missions. So we have ground stations. Regardless of their size, most satellite missions require some form of communication with operators on the Earth. That communication requires apparatus that can transmit or receive signals to or from specific satellites. The facilities that are used to provide contact are called ground stations. These vary enormously in size and complexity. The largest consists of arrays of satellite dishes that can handle large volumes of data and also have the power to send and receive signals to and from distant satellites in GEO. Ground stations can be built into vehicles and used to provide mobile satellite communications. For example, a television broadcaster might use a truck equipped with a dish and communications equipment to transmit live videos via satellite from a sports event back to the studio from which it will be retransmitted to viewers. Satellite antennas can be small enough to be built into portable devices, including satellite dishes, supporting equipment that can be carried in a backpack, and handheld global positioning system receivers that enable users to navigate accurately. The manner in which users will interact with satellites and the capability of the equipment that they are expected to use will be taken into account in the satellite's design and the planning of its mission. For example, it might be sufficient to place a CubeSat in LEO, low Earth orbit, to provide temporary internet access for engineers working at a remote building site for the duration of the satellite's life. We'll go on to page 10, talking about launching satellites. There's a picture here which has a payload bay, a second stage, final stage, and a first stage bay. I'm going to let you review that picture and the words that go with that. So carrying on for page 10. Satellites are launched into orbit using rockets which vary in size and maximum payload. Some rockets can carry a single large satellite, while others may carry multiple medium-sized satellites or many small satellites. There are several standard models of launch vehicle in operation. These can be adapted to carry different payloads. If a rocket has spare capacity, then it can be used to launch additional satellites. Alternatively, it may be necessary to load ballast, such as concrete blocks, to balance the rocket and ensure a successful launch. Satellite launches require careful planning to ensure that the rocket releases its payload at a precisely determined point in space, with the correct velocity and orientation. Any error in velocity will affect the satellite's orbit and could result in falling it back to Earth. If the orientation is incorrect, then the satellite sensors may be pointed out to space instead of towards the intended location on Earth. Incorrect orientation could also prevent solar panels from collecting sufficient light to produce power or could prevent clear communications with users. Launches require complicated mathematical calculations that take account of gravity and the Earth's movement as it rotates on its axis and follows its own orbit around the Sun. Let's go on to page 11. We have some rockets and some pictures of rockets. Rockets require launch sites that have the necessary infrastructure in place for assembly and launch. The launch site will also be selected to take account of the satellite or satellites that will compromise the rocket's payload. In order to reach orbit, a rocket must achieve sufficient altitude to escape the Earth's atmosphere. The rocket must also achieve sufficient horizontal velocity to avoid being dragged back to Earth by gravity. One way to boost a rocket's horizontal velocity is to launch in an easterly direction and from as close to the equator as possible. The Earth rotates from west to east, so a rocket launched in that direction will benefit from the velocity provided by that rotation. The Earth's circumference is longer at the equator, which means that launching towards the east from the equator will maximize that benefit. It is possible to launch rockets in a westerly direction or from a launch site that is closer to either of the Earth's poles, but that will require additional power. If the rocket requires additional fuel to reach orbit, then it will have less lifting capacity for satellites. It may then become necessary to incur the expense of using a larger rocket. The location and direction of launch also determines the area into which debris and gases created by the rocket will return to Earth. Large rockets often have external fuel tanks or booster rockets that are jettisoned during the flight. They may also be separated into 2 or more stages or sections. The first stage contains a large rocket motor and fuel tanks. The second stage breaks away and falls to Earth when the fuel is exhausted during the initial launch phase. The rocket in the second stage then ignites and provides the propulsion for the next phase, and so on, until the rocket reaches its intended altitude. Spaceports are launch sites that serve large rockets. Most are located so that the risk of injury or damage to property is minimized, with large items of debris being dropped into expanses of ocean or uninhabited desert and kept clear of aviation flight paths. Prevailing winds and prevailing weather must be considered when selecting locations for spaceports. High winds can affect a rocket's trajectory while it's in flight, especially during the first few seconds after launch. Local temperatures can also be an issue. It could, for example, be dangerous to fuel a rocket on its launch pad in conditions of extreme heat or cold. Spaceports must also be accessible to operators. There is very little point in locating a spaceport in an area that has inadequate transport links for the delivery of parts, rocket fuel, and payload. There is also very little point in locating in countries that are politically unstable or that have unsupportive governments. It's page 11. I'm going to pause there, guys. I'm going to stop sharing because I know that was a lot. And in my opinion, it was quite technical, and it's in an area that Seema have explained a lot of technical workings and things that I didn't even know. You know, obviously I didn't get every word right, so apologies for that. But I want us to get a sense of the market and the space industry. And there was a lot there. There was a lot there. So I would encourage us to take a break. And I really just want I want you to listen to it again a few times and soak it up. Like, what does our industry do? How does our industry do it? What do I need to actually take out of that ridiculous level of detail and numbers and there was a lot of things in there, okay? What you're now going to do is you're going to learn how Leo does it, what Leo does, and then you're going to take another break and just over the next few weeks between now and your exam, you're just going to put the jigsaw pieces together. You've just got a huge jigsaw being thrown at you. I know I'm just reading it, but there's a lot of jigsaw pieces. You're going to put them together and figure out what you're going to write about. So what does that, you've just learned a jigsaw piece. What does that mean? So what? Okay, I'm just needed to caveat that before I carried on with the Leo piece and what we do and how we do it, because it's a very overwhelming pre-scene for an industry that is probably new to you. In my opinion, it will be new to most of us. So do you need to know every single piece of those jigsaw pieces that you just learn or you just listened to or that I just read? No, absolutely not. But you need to get a fundamental core picture of what the jigsaw puzzle looks like so that you can link it together with a piece of Leo and with your unseen question to write a sentence, to write a mark, to get a mark out of that, to put the sentences together, to put the jigsaw pieces together properly, to make a relevant, correct assessment and financial strategic decision, strategic evaluation, strategic recommendation, all of these things. Like, we do what Leo do work in that market. That is our market. This is where we generate our ideas, our revenue, our profits, our products, our services, all the things. We're in that market. So obviously we need to understand it. Take your time over the next few weeks to understand the jigsaw pieces that interest you, that are key fundamental jigsaw pieces, And don't worry too much about all of them and knowing every single thing about a Leo and a Meo and a Geo or an Leo, Meo, Geo. Just understand where we sit in that market and how we sit in that market and what's going on in this market. Okay, guys, let's take a quick pause and I will come back and finish reading the Leo scene piece of the pre-scene. Right, let's listen and learn and soak in what our company does, where we work, who we're the strategic finance lead for. Okay, guys, the full company's name is Leothayre, but I'm just going to call it Leo. And throughout, and listen, soak it up, repeat, listen, soak it up, practice. Okay, so we're on page 12. This is where we start our company's information, where what we do, where we sit, what's important to us. Okay. Leo was founded in 2004 and was quoted on the Wesleyan Stock Exchange in 2017. The company provides a complete satellite service for clients, specializing in small satellites from 1 kilogram to 75 kilograms. It provides a complete service to its clients, starting from an initial consultation, continuing through to a launch and operation of the satellites, or satellite constellation. Leo's engineers have the necessary knowledge and experience to analyze the client's mission and recommended suitable solutions. The mission determines the sensors and the satellite must carry and sustain. That has implications for the size of the satellite and the cost of launching it into orbit. Leo's workshops have the staff and equipment that are required to design and build small satellites. This is specialized area. For example, all components must be certified as suitable for space. Components that are robust and reliable on Earth can quickly deteriorate because of the vacuum in space. The build must survive the launch and deployment of any movable parts such as hinged solar panels and antennae must operate reliably in zero gravity. Satellites must be thoroughly tested before launch to ensure that they will operate reliably once in orbit. Leo has extensive test facilities that can test for the effects of vibration, extreme heat and cold, and vacuum. Leo does not operate its own rockets, but it has close working relationships with several launch providers. It can negotiate launch slots on behalf of clients, ensuring that satellites will be placed in the correct orbit in time to meet client deadlines. Alternatively, clients can request completed satellites to be delivered to them so that they can make their own arrangements for launching. Leo can provide ground stations that can control the mission once satellites are in orbit. These are required to send instructions to satellites to gather data collected by their sensors. Leo owns and operates its own ground stations and can organize additional support from third parties for missions that require specialized equipment. A typical mission takes 12 to 18 months from initial consultation to launch. Repeat builds can be quicker, taking as little as 4 to 6 months. The company has developed a basic satellite body called Leothayre Standard, which is basically a CubeSat that can be supplied in 3U, 6U, and 12U configurations. The design incorporates solar panel arrays and it can be adapted to accommodate almost any type of sensor specified by the client. It is quicker to adapt a Leothayre standard to meet a mission's requirements than to design a satellite from scratch. Leo has successfully launched 64 satellites, all of which were designed and manufactured by the company. It also has a substantial number of orders awaiting fulfillment, and the company has made sales to clients in several different countries, thanks in part to its excellent reputation for meeting deadlines and achieving mission objectives. Let's go on to page 13 and learn some more. So this is an important page, guys. This is extracts from Leo's annual report. Leo's mission, vision, and values. Our mission. Leo's mission is to lead in the creation of operation of satellite. Oh gosh, you need to know this word for word, so let's do that again. Leo's mission is to lead in the creation and operation of satellites that meets the needs of clients for the space-based facilities. Our vision. Leo's vision is to provide space-based facilities that can enhance the quality of life on Earth. We have 5 values. Value number 1, Leothayre chooses excellence in all decisions. Number 2, Leo constantly innovates, anticipating clients' needs. Number 3, Leo insists on fairness and respect in the workplace. Number 4, Leo develops and maintains strong relationships with its clients. Number 5, Leo acts with integrity and never promises more than it can deliver. Then we'll go on page 13 to Leo's board of directors. I encourage you to know their name, know their job title, and know one more thing about them. Let's start with Fatma. She is a non-executive chair. Fatma is an electronic engineer by trade. She spent 20 years working for a major car manufacturer, initially in manufacturing and latterly in research and development. She left the manufacturer to take up the role of head of education within the Wexland Facility of Engineers. She was subsequently promoted to chief executive of the faculty. She now combines her position on Leo's board with a visiting lectureship in electronic engineering at Capital University. Fatima was appointed as non-executive chair in 2022. Our CEO is Dr. Robert Suwaj. Robert has a doctorate in mechanical engineering. He was one of the first appointments when Leo was founded in 2004. He has remained with the company since then, being promoted to the board as operations director and further promoted to CEO. Dr. Robert was promoted to Leo's board as operations director in 2019 and was further promoted to CEO in 2023. We have an operations director, Ming Chai Tseng. Ming Chai was a Master of Engineering degree in aeronautical engineering. She spent several years working as a project manager for a quoted aerospace company. During that time, she supported the development of an updated version of the company's airliner. She joined Leo to support the development of systems and mission management software. Ming Che is now responsible for all aspects of scheduling and liaising with third parties in order to ensure that the production facilities are available and arrangements for launches are in place. Let's go on to page 14 and learn some more. Ming Che joined Leo's board as operations director in 2021. The next member of our board is the technology director, Dr. Alex Mando. Alex has a doctorate in aeronautical engineering. He worked for Wexland Spaceport for 6 years after graduation. During that time, he focused on the assembly and launch of rockets. He joined Leo as a mechanical engineer, focusing the integration of satellites with their launch vehicles. Alex is now responsible for the oversight of all aspects of the design and manufacturing of satellites. Dr. Alex was appointed as Board of Technology on the board as Technology Director in 2022. Our CFO, Chief Finance Officer, is Gams Almas. Gams has a degree in banking. She spent much of her career to date working for a major international bank, specialising in negotiating loans for high technology startups. She joined Leo as a senior financial manager to support the management of the company's cash flows and the funding of expansion. Gams joined the board as CFO in 2020. Mark Jones is our marketing director. Mark has considerable experience of aerospace sales. He has a junior administrative role in the He had a junior administrative role in the sales department of a major aircraft manager. He demonstrated considerable talent and was promoted through various levels until he was appointed as senior sales manager. His responsibilities including heading the sales team responsible for the sale of cargo aircraft to logistics companies. Mark joined our board as marketing director in 2021. Let's go on to the next lady. Our senior independent director is Professor Alice Alves. Alice has a career in academia, teaching and researching economics at Capital University. Her research interests included environmental studies and the tracking of urban expansion. Her academic publications included studies that have made use of data. Let's start that again. Her academic publications included studies that have made use of data provided by Leo's clients. Alice joins our board as Senior Independent Director in 2022. An independent non-exec director, NED, is Cowen Danakos. Cowen has a career in politics, including several years as a member of Wexland's Parliament. During that time, he took an active interest in industry and science. He sat on a number of parliamentary committees, including the committee responsible for an investigation into the potential environmental impact of Westland Spaceport before permission for its construction was granted. Cowen retired from politics in 2022. He joined our board as an independent non-executive director at that time. And our last member of the board is another independent non-executive director, Manal Al-Ramli. Manal worked for a major quoted civil engineering company, starting as a surveyor and rising to a seat on the company's board of director of operations. She has retired from full-time employment. She combines her seat on Leo's board with a directorship of East Town College, a further educational college. Manal joined our board in 2020. Okay, and also we're now on page 15. So we have two tables. We have a board responsibility table in orange. Please liaise and read this yourself. And we have a green table, which is the board committees and which NED is on which committee. Please review this on page 15. Leo's chief internal auditor reports to the convener of the audit committee. Great, good tip. Okay, let's go on to page 16 where we have Leo's principal risks. There are more risks than this, guys, but these are the ones that seem to have identified. Okay, so risk number one, the risk impact. Leo is a young business that competes in a relatively young and developing industry. It is difficult to forecast future growth with any confidence. The mitigation of that risk impact. The management team pays close attention to the maintenance and improvement of internal reporting systems. These are updated to ensure that they are consistent with business processes. The management team pays close attention to changes in the market for satellites and also for launch and mission services. So we have a risk impact and we have a risk mitigation. Risk impact number two, that's easy to say. The regulatory framework of the space industry is changing constantly. It could change significantly before agreed regulations are in force. The mitigation to that risk is that Leo takes great care to comply with all applicable regulations. The management team pays close attention to ongoing developments and work with government agencies and other regulators to shape the future development of regulation. Risk impact number three, satellites can fail before their missions are completed. The mitigation of that risk. Leo satellites are tested extensively during construction using apparatus that can simulate, let's start again. Leo's satellites are tested extensively during construction using apparatus that can simulate the conditions that will be encountered at the time of launch and during their exposure to conditions in space. Ownership of satellites is transferred to the customers at the time of delivery to the launch site. Customers bear the risk of satellite malfunction during launches and in orbit, unless it can be demonstrated that there was negligence in construction. Risk number four, is Leo is heavily dependent on suppliers for the delivery of components and assemblies. Any delays could threaten mission plans. Risk mitigation. The company is working to keep as much fabrication work in-house as possible. Risk number 5. Leo depends heavily on a small number of clients to maintain revenues and profitability. The loss of a client or any adverse change in a client's performance could prove harmful. The mitigation of loss number of that risk. The mitigation of risk number 5. The company works closely with clients to ensure that their needs are kept under constant review. Staff working on contracts are expected to pay close attention to progress and to address any potential overruns as a matter of some urgency. The next risk is various macro factors that can have a significant impact on business. These include political uncertainties that might affect the ability of government agencies to invest in space missions and economic uncertainties, including exchange rates that might affect costs and revenues when they are converted to $. The mitigation of that risk is Leo pays close attention to global and regional developments that might affect its business. Clients are expected to make stage payments when satellites reach agreed points in construction. The company has an active treasury department that is responsible for the active and passive management of currency risks. And let's go on to the financial statements on page 17. Please obviously review these as well. I'm going to spell out some of the highlights. So Leo's consolidated profit statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st of March. We have 2024 and 2025. We have a profit and loss statement here, which shows revenue, operating costs, operating profit, finance costs, tax, expense, and profit for the year. The high level numbers are in 2024, revenue was 1.683 million. Revenue in 2025 was 1.782 million. Operating costs in 2024 were 1.155 million. Operating costs in 2025 are 1.126 million. Operating profit in 2024 was 528. Operating profit in 2025 was 656. Finance costs in 2024 were 350. Finance costs in 2025 were 450. The tax expense in 2024 was 27. The tax expense in 2025 was 31. Leading profit for the year in 2024 as 151. And profit for the year in 2025 is 175. The next statement is a consolidated statement of changes in equity. You will see the opening balance, a profit for the year, a dividend payment, and a closing balance for the year as at 31st of March 2025. Please review the profit for the year and the dividend payment in this statement. Let's go on to page 18 and we can see a balance sheet for our financial position, consolidated statement of financial position or balance sheet for us. We have our assets, our current assets, our total assets, equity, liabilities, long-term, current liabilities, and total equity and liabilities. So assets and equity and liabilities. Please review these. You will note that there is goodwill in 2024 and goodwill in 2025. There are other intangible assets in 2024 and 2025. We have cash in our bank. We do not have an overdraft. We have cash in our bank. We have a long-term borrowings, which has gone up in the year from 3.5 billion to 4.5 million Wexland dollars. And that is your balance sheet to make your own assessments on. Understand these statements, learn your numbers, do your own analysis and financial analysis on some of these numbers so that you can bring this to your practice and exam day. Let's move on to our competitors' financial statements on page, what page are we on? 19. So Orblanic, or Orb, as I'm going to call it, is a direct competitor of Leo. It competes for the same contracts and has been in business for slightly longer. Orb's head office is also located in Wexland. So you can see a profit and loss statement for Orb for the same years, 2024 and 2025. And you can see a consolidated statement of changes in equity at the same period as well. You can see that Orb has higher revenues than us and higher profits than us. You can see that Orb's has a profit for the year and a dividend payment. Please do your own assessment on these and own calculations on these numbers, but know that they're a very useful source for you to use as your points and relevant points for your exam day. Okay, so we're going to just scroll down. Page 20 is Orb's consolidated statement of financial position or balance sheet. Again, a very similar looking balance sheet in lots of ways. They have goodwill, they have other intangible assets, they have cash in the bank. They have a long-term loan, but they just have not increased it as much as us this year. Is that important? Maybe. Would I like to know that in my armour for exam day? Yes, I would. Yes. They have higher trade receivables than us, but they also have higher revenue than us as well. Very similar in my opinion, but it's good to have both sets to have as a financial comparison and numbers for your strategic case study answers. Okay. We're going to scroll down to page 21, which shows the share price history. This is a graph. You will see that the share price of Leo's shares have considerably decreased in the last 5 years. It's slightly up and down, but the theme is very much down. Leothayre's beta is 1.15. So again, do your own financial analysis on these. Use any calculations that you've learned to assess the share price and have that ready for your discussion. Let's scroll on to the news stories on page 22 and on. The news stories and articles at the back are important, guys. Okay, I want you to review them. I want you to focus on them in a way to help your thinking and to potentially be an unseen question or a theme. Okay. It's obviously not industry analysis. It's not specifically about us and Leo, but they're important articles. They're there for a reason. That's all I'll say. Okay. I'll let you review them. We have one from Happy Comic, which is a reader's question. The question is, how many stages does the rocket have? Max has asked. We also have another question about rockets and how do they get something that big to the launch platform? Matilda asked that. These are good articles, by the way. These are good thinking articles for you. Let's scroll down to the next one. VJ has asked, are rockets launches bad for the environment? Again, a lovely important point for you to think about and know your answers to, guys. And bring into your unseen questions, bring into your questions on case study day. Francine has asked, what happens to old satellites after they stop working? Again, a very important point, tiny little point, another bit of a jigsaw piece. I'm going to scroll down to an article from the Wexland Business News about space rating degree. The degree is out of this world, and it's some academia around one of the university's courses. That's on page 24. On page 25, we have an article from the Wexland Daily News. And this is about a farmer, one of our customers, potential customers. Will it rain on my farm within the next 90 minutes? This is an interesting article. Just trust me, read these articles, practice answering these articles like they were a question. Practice that this is the theme of your question on exam day. What would you do, think and say? What would you write? What would you think about? Brainstorm, practice these. Do not miss out these articles, guys. That's on page 25. And then page 26, we have an article from the Wexland Business News about the government, about signing a space junk charter. So these are things that are actually happening and questions that are actually being asked to us right now. So embrace these articles, You don't need to know the articles word for word, but just pretend these articles are a theme or a question or an unseen topic. Then what would you do, think, and say with them? You've got time to practice these articles for a reason. Okay, guys. So that's on page 26, and that is the end of our amazing strategic case study pre-seen for the May and August sittings. Let me stop sharing my screen. So I know it was a long video. I know I was reading a lot, word for word, on purpose, so that you can listen back. You're obviously going to read this. We're all going to read this, but I think we've all got different learning styles. I learned some stuff that I'd forgotten or hadn't picked up on the first few times I'd read it by just reading it out loud to you guys. I will be encouraging my students to listen over continuously, maybe once a week to this recording. You can read it once a week. You can listen to it once a week, absorb it, make it as part of your obsession to be your strategic finance lead at Leo, so that you can demonstrate your strategic finance understanding on exam day. Okay, guys? Any questions you've got, please reach out. I have my strategic case study course for the May and August sitting available. I'll leave the link in the descriptions. If you like this video, for sure, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment. It just helps more SEMA students see the videos, and I'm here to help and support you to get your plaque up on the wall. I've got my plaque, and I'm a revision coach for SEMA students for strategic case study only, so that you can get your plaque. You deserve this. You've worked so hard. Let's absorb the pre-seen, do some analysis, enjoy my future videos that come out about Leo and what we're going to do, think, and say, ready for practicing. And good luck in your exam, guys. Let me know how you get on, and any questions, just let me know. Thanks.